series of difficulties on the world's highest mountains often unfolds excruciatingly slowly. A contact call is missed. A storm descends. Hours stretch to days until a sense of crisis solidifies. The last communication with British climber Tom Ballard and his Italian climbing partner Daniele Nardi was a satellite phone call to their base camp last Sunday from around 6,000 meters on Nanga Parbat, the world's 9th tallest mountain, at 8,126 meters. Ballard, 30, and Nardi, 42, were attempting to climb the Himalayan giant in winter via a rock spur called Mummery Rib, on its west face. Last Thursday, when a helicopter was able to survey the higher slopes, searchers saw recent avalanche debris in a partly buried tent, but at a lower level than expected, and away from the duo's planned route. But low cloud, snow, and high winds have hampered rescue efforts. The concern for Ballard, an accomplished mountaineer who was the first to solo all 6 great alpine faces in one winter, is doubly painful for those who know him because Ballard's mother, Alison Hargreaves, died climbing K2 in 1995. Nanga Parbat, nicknamed Killer Mountain, has featured in some of Himalayan climbing's darkest as well as most famous episodes. British mountaineer Albert Mummery disappeared on the mountain in 1895 with 2 Gurkha companions, and it was finally conquered in 1953 by Herman Buell, who barely survived after spending a night on a ledge during his descent. In 1970, in a controversy that still resonates today, Günter Messner, brother of the most famous Himalayan mountaineer, Reinhold Messner, was lost as the 2 men descended. Climbed for the first time in winter in 2016, Nanga Parbat remains a daunting prospect in any season. And while Nardi had been on the mountain before, including in winter, Nanga Parbat was only the 2nd Himalayan expedition for Ballard, a man described by his peers as a strong, talented, and very capable climber in a field where experience and persistence in the face of repeated failure is often the key. The sense of shock in the small world of Himalayan mountaineering has been compounded by the similarities with the death of Ballard's mother 24 years ago. Like her son, Hargreaves was an outstanding young alpine climber. She, too, had soloed the 6 alpine faces in summer. Pipped at the post in her ambition to be the first British woman to climb Everest, she climbed the world's highest mountain without oxygen and unsupported, still a rare achievement in a summer in which she also planned to climb K2 and Kanchenjunga, the world's 2nd and 3rd highest mountains respectively. A few months after Everest, however, she died during her descent of K2. After her death, a biography of Hargreaves, Regions of the Heart, by David Rose and Ed Douglas, considered what might have driven her to undertake this challenge, suggesting a problematic marriage as a possible motivation. Then, around 5 years ago, Tom Ballard burst onto the climbing scene in his own right. Something of a loner, he had built up a quiet resume of first winter ascents in Scotland before coming to wider attention with a feat many saw as echoing his mother's round of alpine solo climbs, except in winter. Climbers Jack Gelded and Nick Brown documented Ballard's alpine solos for website ukclimbing.com. Before meeting Tom, they wrote in 2015, "We'd read a lot about him. We'd stumbled upon his efforts as a teenager to arrange an expedition to K2 to be the first person to climb the mountain in winter, and the first to solo at a hugely dangerous objective." They carefully concluded, "There's no denying that part of Tom's motivations come directly from his mother's legacy. He's chosen the same mountains, the same path, and he too wants to be a professional climber." More recently, Tom Ballard was accumulating experience on bigger mountains before finally announcing his plans for Nanga Parbat in winter. This would be far removed from the guided climbers ascending fixed ropes each year on Everest. Those involved would be climbing in a small team and in the depths of winter, when winds can regularly reach hurricane force. Climber-turned-documentary filmmaker Sean Smith, one of a handful of Britons to have attempted Nanga Parbat in winter, says he can understand the appeal. "In one respect it's grim, the days are super cold and it can feel like the Somme, a daily battle for survival," he says. "Everything freezes up and the mountain is swept by massive avalanches. But it's also amazing. If you have the level of experience you can understand the challenge. Some of those days leading out the route are my most memorable days climbing. It's as close as you can get to being on another planet on the very edge of existence and in the most beautiful place. Mountain guide Sandy Allen, who has climbed Nanga Parbat twice, is a Ballard family friend. He describes Alison Hargreaves as amazing and Tom Ballard as similar in talent. The face is absolutely massive, he says. We climbed a route that takes you past the bottom of the Mummery Rib. For someone like Tom, climbing at the top of his game, the ridge would be a pretty easy approach. But when you get to the top, there is a big plateau with seracs glaciated ice peaks at its edge and it gets quite dangerous, strafed by falling ice. The scale of that step up was dramatized by what Ballard and Nardi found when they arrived at their base camp. According to a blog post on the website of Ballard's sponsor, Montaigne, deep snow on the mountain up to 4 meters in places forced them to abandon one of their camps. As the weeks dragged on, one of 2 Pakistani climbers in the team fell ill and left. A second then withdrew, concerned at the conditions. Nardi told a Russian climbing website, after the heavy snowfall, something has changed inside him. More than once he said, I don't want to lose my life on this mountain. The 2 of them decided to press on. In Nardi's last communication, reported by Italian news website L'In, he tells how Ballard had just discovered a new route up a gully. We saw a couloir of ice and snow in the midst of the rocky walls that would allow us to go up much faster. At that point, they had reached a long slope of soft snow, bare ice and rocks at around 6,300 meters, from which they descended to make camp at 6,000 meters, their last known location. Those who know the men still hope they are safe somewhere, trying to retreat, the batteries flat in their set phone or the signal blocked by weather. Until then the painful wait for news continues.